In 1994, a Pennsylvania State Police traffic cop vanished without a trace. 5 years later, a toll booth camera captured her face again, sparking a relentless quest for answers in a case shrouded in mystery, corruption, and hope. Detective Marcus Mitchell sat in his patrol car outside the Pennsylvania State Highway Authority building, his hands gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. 5 years. 5 years since his wife, Sarah, had disappeared, leaving behind nothing but questions and a heart-wrenching void that consumed his every waking moment. The call from Highway Authority technician David Chen had been cryptic, almost unbelievable. "Detective Mitchell, I think you need to see this footage. It's about your wife." The March wind whipped through the parking lot as Marcus made his way toward the concrete building that housed the state's toll booth monitoring system. Chun, a slight man in his 30s with wire-rimmed glasses, met him at the entrance. "I've been going through archived footage for a federal audit," Chun explained, his voice trembling slightly. "The system keeps everything for 7 years. I was reviewing the I-76 westbound toll plaza from 1999, and I saw something that made me stop breathing. Inside the sterile monitoring room, banks of screens displayed real-time footage from dozens of toll booths across the state." Chun led Marcus to a computer terminal in the corner and pulled up archived files. "This is from February 28, 1999. Rush hour traffic around 5:47 p.m. The grainy black and white footage showed cars moving through the toll booth in the typical stop-and-go pattern of evening commuters. Marcus watched intently, his police training automatically cataloging details: license plates, vehicle makes, passenger counts. Then Chun paused the video. "There," he whispered, pointing to a sedan in the middle lane. "Look at the passenger side." The image was blurry, pixelated by late 1990s technology, but Marcus felt his world tilt on its axis. The woman in the passenger seat had shoulder-length brown hair and the same distinctive profile he'd kissed goodbye 5 years ago. Officer Sarah Mitchell, badge 2847, Pennsylvania State Police, missing since October 12, 1994. "Can you enhance this?" Marcus asked, his voice thick with emotion. Chun nodded, pulling up image enhancement software. As the pixels sharpened, Sarah's face became clearer. She wore civilian clothes, a blue sweater Marcus didn't recognize. Her expression was distant, almost vacant, staring straight ahead as if in a trance. The driver was a middle-aged man with graying hair, wearing what appeared to be a business suit. "Did you run the plates?" Marcus asked, though he knew Chun would have. "Registered to a Daniel Foster, address in Harrisburg," Chun replied. But here's the strange part. The registration was only active for 3 months in 1999. Then the car was reported stolen and found abandoned in a parking garage in Philadelphia. Marcus studied the image again, memorizing every detail. Sarah looked older, thinner than he remembered, but it was undeniably her. The small scar above her left eyebrow from a childhood accident. The way she held her shoulders, slightly hunched. When tired details only someone who'd loved her for 8 years would notice. "I need copies of everything," Marcus said. "The original footage, the enhanced images, the vehicle registration information, everything." Chun handed him a manila folder. "I already prepared these for you. Detective Mitchell, I'm sorry about your wife. I remember when she disappeared. The whole state was looking for her." Marcus took the folder with trembling hands. Sarah had been a traffic enforcement officer with the Pennsylvania State Police, working the dangerous highways around Philadelphia. She'd been investigating a series of cargo truck hijackings when she vanished. Her patrol car had been found abandoned. On Route 1, radio still crackling with dispatch calls, her service weapon missing along with her body. The investigation had consumed every resource available. The FBI had joined the search, convinced her disappearance was connected to the truck hijacking ring she'd been investigating. Hundreds of officers had combed abandoned buildings, searched waterways, and followed every lead. Marcus had taken leave from his detective position to search for her personally, driving thousands of miles through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. "There's something else," Chun said quietly. "I found 3 more instances of this same vehicle passing through different toll plazas over a 2-week period in February 1999. Each post time, the same woman is in the passenger seat." Marcus felt his heart race. "Show me." The additional footage revealed a pattern. The car had traveled westbound on I-76, then south on I-95, then north again on Route 1. It was as if someone was deliberately keeping Sarah mobile, never staying in one place for long. In each video, Sarah's appearance was consistent. The same vacant expression, the same civilian clothes, always in the passenger seat, never driving. "Who else has seen this?" Marcus asked. "Just me," Chun replied. "I wanted to call you first, out of respect, but I'll have to file a report with my supervisor by tomorrow morning. This is potentially evidence in a federal missing persons case." Marcus nodded, understanding the protocol. "I need to contact the original case team. Agent Rebecca Torres with the FBI. She was the lead investigator." As he prepared to leave, Chun grabbed his arm. "Detective Mitchell, I hope this gives you some answers. I can't imagine what you've been going through." Marcus looked back at the frozen image on the screen, his wife's face, 5 years after she'd vanished. "It gives me something I haven't had in 5 years," he said. Hope. The drive back to Philadelphia was a blur of conflicting emotions. Marcus had never stopped believing Sarah was alive, but as months turned to years, even the most optimistic investigators had assumed the worst. Serial killers didn't usually keep victims alive for extended periods. The truck hijacking ring had been dismantled within 6 months of Sarah's disappearance, with no evidence linking them to her fate. But now, concrete proof she'd been alive in 1999 raised more questions than answers. Who was Daniel Foster? Why had Sarah appeared so passive, so disconnected? Was she being held against her will? Or was something more complex at play? Marcus pulled into his driveway as the sun set behind the row houses of South Philadelphia. The house he and Sarah had bought together in 1992 felt cavernous without her. He'd kept everything as she'd left it, her coffee mug in the kitchen sink, her uniform hanging in the closet, her reading glasses on the nightstand inside. He spread the documents across the kitchen table and began making calls. Agent Torres, now stationed in Washington, D.C., answered on the second ring. "Marcus, it's been almost a year since we last spoke. How are you holding up? Rebecca, I need you to sit down. I have new evidence in Sarah's case." There was a long pause. What kind of evidence? Marcus explained the toll booth footage, the enhanced images, the mysterious Daniel Foster. Torres listened without interruption, her FBI training evident in her methodical questions about the chain of custody, the surveillance system's technical specifications, and the technician's credibility. "I'll be in Philadelphia tomorrow morning," she said finally. "Don't share this with anyone else until I arrive. If Sarah is still alive, we need to handle this carefully. The people responsible for her disappearance won't hesitate to harm her if they realize we're getting close." That night, Marcus sat in his living room, staring at the enhanced photograph of Sarah in the toll booth. Her vacant expression, unfamiliar clothes, and the way she seemed to look through the camera haunted him. What had happened to his vibrant, strong-willed wife? The woman who'd graduated top of her class from the police academy, who never backed down from danger, who made him laugh even on the worst days. He dialed Sarah's sister, Jennifer, in Pittsburgh. "Jen, it's Marcus. I need you to sit down. I have news about Sarah." The conversation was emotional, filled with tears and disbelief. Jennifer, Sarah's closest confidant, agreed to drive to Philadelphia the next morning to examine the footage. As Marcus tried to sleep, He replayed October 12, 1994. Sarah had been working a late shift, monitoring truck traffic on Route 1 near the Delaware border. She'd radioed in a suspicious vehicle at 11:47 p.m., then went silent. Her patrol car was found at 2:15 a.m. by a passing motorist. Engine running, driver's door open, radio crackling with unanswered dispatch calls. The investigation revealed Sarah had been building a case against a sophisticated truck hijacking operation stealing high-value cargo electronics, pharmaceuticals, designer clothing, and selling it through corrupt shipping companies. She'd identified suspects and was close to arrests when she vanished. Now, 5 years later, the toll booth footage suggested she hadn't been killed immediately. Someone had kept her alive, hidden her, used her for an unknown purpose. The implications were both hopeful and terrifying. Marcus drifted to sleep clutching Sarah's photograph, the first peaceful rest he'd had in years. Philadelphia Police Department. March 16, 1999, Agent Rebecca Torres arrived at the Philadelphia Police Department at 7:30 a.m., her federal credentials clearing her through security with practiced efficiency. She found Marcus in Conference Room B, surrounded by case files, photographs, and toll booth footage spread across the table like a complex puzzle. The past 5 years had aged him, gray streaks in his dark hair, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there when Sarah disappeared. "Show me everything," Torres said. Settling into a chair, Marcus activated the laptop Ching had loaned him, displaying the enhanced toll booth footage. Torres studied the images with the precision that made her one of the FBI's top missing persons investigators. Sarah's case had haunted her personally, a professional operation with no physical evidence. No witnesses, no ransom demands, no body. Facial recognition software confirms it's her, Torres said after several minutes. The bone structure. The scar, it's Sarah, but her demeanor is concerning. She appears sedated or psychologically compromised. Jennifer arrived at 8:15 a.m., eyes red from crying, and the 3-hour drive from Pittsburgh. As Sarah's younger sister and a social worker specializing in trauma victims, she brought unique insight. "That's not Sarah," she said immediately. Upon seeing the footage, "I mean, it's her physically, but it's not her. Look at her posture, her expression. Sarah was never passive like this. She was always alert, always watching everything. This woman looks broken." Torres nodded. Grimly, "I agree. This suggests long-term psychological manipulation, possibly drugs, definitely coercion. Someone has been controlling her for 5 years. Marcus pulled out the original case files, yellowed but meticulously organized. "Let's review what we knew." In 1994, Sarah was investigating a truck hijacking ring along the I-95 corridor. It was sophisticated. Inside information about valuable cargo, precise timing, professional execution, no violence initially, just theft. The investigation had identified suspects, including Raymond Castellano, a shipping company owner with suspected mob connections. Castellano had alibis for the night of Sarah's disappearance, but Torres always suspected his involvement. "Castellano died in 1997, she said. Heart attack. But his nephew Vincent took over, and our intelligence suggests the criminal activities never stopped." Jennifer studied photographs of Sarah's abandoned patrol car. "You said her service weapon was missing. Sarah never would have surrendered her gun willingly. She was an expert marksman, trained in defensive tactics. Whatever happened, it wasn't random." Marcus flipped to witness statements. "We interviewed everyone Sarah contacted before she disappeared, colleagues, suspects, everyone she spoke to about the case. One name kept coming up, Detective Lieutenant Robert Hayes from State Police Internal Affairs." Torres frowned. "Hayes? I remember him. He seemed more interested in protecting the department's image than finding Sarah. That's what bothered me," Marcus said. Hayes kept asking about Sarah's personal life, her mental state, whether she might have run away voluntarily. He seemed eager to classify her as a voluntary missing person rather than pursue the criminal angle. Jennifer leaned forward. Sarah never mentioned Hayes, but she was worried in the weeks before she disappeared. She called me 3 times, asking if I'd noticed anyone following me or watching my house. I thought she was paranoid because of the dangerous case. Torres made notes. We need to re-examine Hayes's involvement. In 1994, we took his cooperation at face value because he was a fellow officer. But if Sarah was onto something bigger, say, police corruption, Hayes might have been protecting the wrong people. Marcus pulled out a file marked "Evidence Seized." We found these in Sarah's personal effects at the station. She'd been collecting information on Hayes, but we didn't understand its significance at the time. The materials included photocopies of Hayes's financial records, obtained through unofficial channels, showing unusual cash deposits totaling over $50,000 in the 6 months before Sarah's disappearance. How did Sarah get these? Torres asked. We never determined that, Marcus replied. But Sarah was resourceful. She had contacts throughout law enforcement who trusted her judgment. If she suspected Hayes was dirty, she'd have found a way to prove it. Jennifer examined the records. This is suspicious. A detective lieutenant's salary wouldn't explain these deposits. Why would Sarah investigate Hayes unless she thought he was tied to the hijacking ring? Torres began pacing. What if the hijacking ring was just the tip of the iceberg? What if there was a larger criminal organization, including corrupt law enforcement? Sarah stumbled onto something bigger than she realized. Marcus nodded. That would explain why she was taken alive. If she had evidence of police corruption, her disappearance might have been to discredit her rather than silence her permanently. The phone rang, interrupting them. It was Chen with more information about the toll booth footage. Detective Mitchell, I've been reviewing additional archived footage. The car with your wife passed through the same toll plaza every Tuesday for 6 weeks in February and March 1999. Same time, same route, like clockwork. Torres took the phone. This is Agent Torres, FBI. Can you trace the pattern? Where was the car coming from and going to? Based on timestamps and toll plaza sequences, it was traveling from the Harrisburg area to Philadelphia and back every Tuesday during rush hour. Marcus's pulse quickened. Harrisburg is where Daniel Foster was registered. But why the regular schedule? What was happening in Philadelphia every Tuesday? Torres handed the phone back. We need to get to Harrisburg. Foster might be dead, but someone was using his identity. The schedule suggests routine meetings or activities. Jennifer gathered her things. I'm coming with you. Sarah's my sister, and if she's alive, I want to be there when you find her. Torres shook her head. This is potentially dangerous. We don't know what we're walking into. I'm a trained social worker, Jennifer insisted. If Sarah's been psychologically manipulated for 5 years, she needs someone she trusts to help her readjust. I'm going. Marcus looked at his sister-in-law, seeing the same determination that made Sarah such an effective officer. She's right. If we find Sarah, she needs Jennifer. Torres reluctantly agreed. Fine, but we do this by the book. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. We gather intelligence first, then plan our approach. As they prepared to leave, Torres called FBI headquarters to request additional resources. The case was reactivated as a federal kidnapping investigation, complicated by potential law enforcement corruption. There's something else to consider, Torres said as they loaded into her FBI vehicle. If Sarah's been alive for 5 years, why hasn't she tried to escape or contact anyone? Marcus had wondered the same. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe she was physically restrained or psychologically controlled. Or maybe she was protecting someone. Jennifer looked out at the Philadelphia skyline. Or maybe she was protecting us. Sarah always said she'd rather die than put her family in danger. If someone threatened to kill Marcus or me, she might have cooperated to keep us safe. The 2-hour drive to Harrisburg gave them time to review case files and plan. Torres arranged for local FBI agents to meet them at the Harrisburg field office to coordinate the investigation into Daniel Foster's identity and the Tuesday trips. As they drove, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling they were nearing the truth. The toll booth footage was their first real lead in 5 years, but it raised disturbing questions about Sarah's condition and her captors. "Rebecca," Marcus said quietly, "what if we're too late? What if Sarah's so damaged by what she's been through that she can't recover?" Torres kept her eyes on the road. "One step at a time, Marcus. First we find her, then we help her heal. But I promise you, whoever took her, whoever's been controlling her for 5 years, they will pay." FBI Field Office, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. March 16, 1999. The Harrisburg FBI Field Office occupied the top 3 floors of a nondescript downtown federal building, its windows reflecting the late afternoon sun. Torres, Marcus, and Jennifer arrived for a meeting with Special Agent Catherine Walsh, a 12-year veteran of Pennsylvania's organized crime beat. "The Daniel Foster identity is completely fabricated," Walsh reported in the secure conference room. "We've traced the Social Security number, driver's license, and vehicle registration. Foster was supposedly a 47-year-old insurance adjuster from Harrisburg, but the identity was created in late 1998, just months before your wife appeared in the toll booth footage." Marcus studied the fabricated documents. "This level of identity creation requires serious resources. We're not talking a simple fake "I do this" is government-quality documentation." Walsh nodded. "Exactly. Someone with access to official databases, printing equipment, and the knowledge to create a complete background. This suggests federal involvement or access to federal resources." Jennifer examined the fake driver's license photo. "The man in the photo doesn't match the driver in the toll booth footage. So either they used a different photo, or there's another layer of deception." Torres displayed the enhanced toll booth images. "The driver in the footage appears to be in his 50s, graying hair, professional appearance, but the facial structure differs from the Foster ID photo. So we're looking for someone who created false identities but used a different person as the driver." Walsh had prepared a brief on Tuesday activities in Philadelphia that might explain the travel pattern. "I've identified possibilities: a federal courthouse with Tuesday hearings, a private medical facility with specialized treatments, and corporate meetings on Tuesdays." Marcus leaned forward. "What about the medical facility? If Sarah appeared sedated or psychologically compromised, she might have been receiving regular treatments." "The Riverside Medical Center," Walsh said, pulling up a file. "A private facility specializing in psychiatric care and experimental treatments. They have a Tuesday clinic for patients with severe trauma and memory disorders." Torres felt a chill. "Memory disorders? Are we talking intentional memory suppression?" "It's possible," Walsh replied. "The facility has a questionable reputation. They've been investigated twice for unethical practices but have connections to federal agencies using their services for sensitive cases." Jennifer stood abruptly. "You're suggesting someone's been deliberately destroying Sarah's memory for 5 years. That's torture." Walsh's expression was grim. "I'm suggesting someone with significant resources and federal connections has been keeping your sister alive for a specific purpose. Memory manipulation would ensure her compliance." Marcus felt anger building. "We need to get to this medical facility. If Sarah's being treated there, we need to find her now." Torres held up a hand. "We can't just burst in. If Sarah's being held against her will, a premature raid could lead to her being moved or harmed. We need more intelligence." Walsh displayed surveillance photos of the Riverside Medical Center. "I've had the facility under observation. For 3 days, these show Tuesday clinic arrivals. In the third set of photos, Marcus's heart stopped. A dark sedan, different from the toll booth footage but similar in style, was parked in the visitors area. In the passenger seat was a woman with shoulder-length brown hair. "That's her," Marcus whispered. "That's Sarah." Jennifer leaned over. "She looks different, older, frailer, but it's definitely her." Torres examined the photos. The driver's different too, an older man, maybe 60, in what looks like a medical uniform. "So we have at least 2 people transporting Sarah," Walsh continued. "The facility is owned by Dr. Harrison Blackwood, a psychiatrist specializing in memory recovery and suppression. He's published papers on controlled amnesia and selective memory editing. His clients include federal agencies." Marcus felt sick. "They've been experimenting on her for 5 years, using my wife as a test subject." Torres placed a calming hand on his shoulder. "We don't know that yet. There might be other explanations." Jennifer studied Blackwood's papers. "He's developed techniques to suppress painful memories in trauma victims, but they could also suppress memories of crimes or corruption." Walsh nodded. "Exactly. If Sarah discovered evidence of police or federal corruption, someone might have suppressed her memories to prevent her from testifying." Torres began pacing. "Which brings us back to Hayes. He suggested Sarah ran away voluntarily, setting up a narrative to explain her disappearance." Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the Philadelphia Police Department. We need more on Hayes's current status." The call revealed disturbing information. Detective Lieutenant Robert Hayes had retired from the state police in 1996, 2 years after Sarah's disappearance, with a full pension despite not meeting service requirements. "Early retirement with full benefits," Marcus reported. "That's unusual unless there was a deal," Walsh made notes. "We need to find Hayes and interview him. If he was involved, he might know where Sarah's being held." Torres pulled up Hayes's current address. "He's in a retirement community in Lancaster, an hour from here. But approaching him directly could warn others if he's part of the conspiracy." Jennifer suggested, "What if we surveil the medical facility first? If Sarah's there every Tuesday, we could follow the vehicle to where she's being held." Marcus agreed. "We watch, identify who's involved, and trace them back to Sarah." Walsh displayed a map of the Riverside Medical Center. "I can position surveillance teams here, and here multiple angles to follow vehicles." Torres coordinated. "Next Tuesday is March 23rd. We have a week to prepare with unmarked vehicles, long-range cameras, and communication equipment. This is our best chance." As they planned, Marcus felt hope and dread. The footage proved Sarah was alive, but suggested prolonged psychological manipulation. What kind of person would she be after such trauma? Jennifer read his thoughts. "Sarah is strong," she said quietly. "Whatever they've done, her core is still there. We just need to find her and help her remember." Walsh gathered the photos. "If Sarah's been kept alive for 5 years, there's a reason. Someone needed her compliance. The question is, what do they still need from her?" Torres frowned. "You're suggesting she's not just a victim she might be involved in their operation, unknowingly." "Not voluntarily," Walsh clarified. "But with memory suppression and behavioral control, she might be an unwilling accomplice. The Tuesday trips could be part of a larger operation." Marcus's anger rose. "You're saying they've turned her into an unwilling accomplice?" "We need to be prepared," Walsh replied. "Her behavior might not be what we expect. She might not recognize you initially," Jennifer stood. "Then we help her remember. Whatever they've done, we reverse it. We bring her home." Torres closed her laptop. "First, we find her. Then we help her. But this is a federal investigation, involving kidnapping, conspiracy, and possibly human experimentation. The people responsible have resources and connections. They won't hesitate to eliminate threats." Walsh handed them secure communication devices. Stay in contact. If anyone spots Sarah or her transporters, don't approach alone. We coordinate. Carefully. The drive back to Philadelphia was quiet, each lost in thoughts of the coming operation. Marcus stared at the countryside, remembering drives with Sarah during their courtship. She'd loved the small towns, the rolling hills, the history in the landscape. "Marcus," Jennifer said softly, "whatever we find next Tuesday, whatever condition Sarah's in, we're bringing her home. She's been fighting to survive. For 5 years. Now it's our turn to fight for her." Torres adjusted her rearview mirror, checking for surveillance vehicles. "We're not just rescuing Sarah. We're exposing a conspiracy operating for at least 5 years. Those responsible must be held accountable." As they approached Philadelphia, Marcus felt a determination he hadn't known since Sarah's disappearance. After 5 years of questions and dead ends, they had a plan. Next Tuesday, they would find his wife and begin bringing her home. Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. March 18, 1999. The Willowbrook Retirement Community sat on 15 acres of manicured lawns and gardens, its colonial-style buildings housing 200 residents in comfortable, if isolated, retirement. Torres, Marcus, and Jennifer arrived at 10:30 a.m., posing as relatives interested in the facility for an elderly family member to observe Robert Hayes without suspicion. "Remember," Torres whispered as they approached the main building, "we're here to gather information, not confront Hayes directly. We need to understand his situation." The facility director, Mrs. Zelena Westbrook, a silver-haired woman in her 60s, greeted them with practiced enthusiasm. "Welcome to Willowbrook," she said, leading them to her office. "I understand you're interested in our independent living arrangements." Jennifer played the primary family member, explaining they sought care for their elderly father, requiring security but maintaining independence. As they toured, she asked casually about residents and activities. "We have several former law enforcement officers here," Mrs. Westbrook mentioned in the common areas. "They share fascinating career stories." Marcus's pulse quickened. "That must be interesting. Any from Pennsylvania?" "Oh, yes. A former state police detective, Robert Hayes, moved here 3 years ago. Lovely man, though he keeps to himself, spending much time in our library writing his memoirs." Torres and Marcus exchanged glances. Hayes writing memoirs could be an opportunity or a threat, depending on what he revealed. "Does he have many visitors?" Jennifer asked innocently. Mrs. Westbrook paused. "Interestingly, Mr. Hayes has few visitors, unusual for his background, but a doctor, Dr. Harrison Blackwood from Riverside Medical Center, sees him regularly for professional consultations." Marcus's heart raced. Hayes was connected to Blackwood, the psychiatrist treating Sarah. "Dr. Blackwood comes regularly?" Torres asked. "Every few weeks. Mr. Hayes has cognitive issues, memory problems. Dr. Blackwood has been helpful in managing his condition." After the tour, they sat in Mrs. Westbrook's office to review services and costs. Through the window, Marcus saw residents walking, reading, and engaging in quiet activities. "There's Mr. Hayes now," Mrs. Westbrook said, pointing to a man near the library building. "He takes that walk every day at 11:15 a.m. very punctual." Marcus studied Hayes, mid-60s, in casual clothes, moving carefully as if with health issues. He looked older than his age, with gray hair and a slight stoop. "His memory problems," Jennifer said carefully. "Are they severe?" Mrs. Westbrook lowered her voice. "Between us, Mr. Hayes seems to have trauma-related memory loss. He's often confused about dates and events. Dr. Blackwood says this can happen to police officers who've experienced stressful situations." Torres nodded sympathetically. "That must be difficult." "The interesting thing," Mrs. Westbrook continued, "is his memory problems are specific. He recalls his childhood and police procedures clearly, but can't remember certain periods of his career. Marcus felt a chill. Certain periods? Dr. Blackwood mentioned a difficult case in the 1990s about a missing police officer. The stress caused significant trauma. After leaving, they convened in a Lancaster coffee shop. Hayes is treated by the same doctor as Sarah, Torres sighed. That's no coincidence. Marcus pulled out his notebook. And his memory problems are conveniently specific to when Sarah disappeared. It sounds like Blackwood suppressing Hayes's memories too. Jennifer stirred her coffee. But why? If Hayes was part of the conspiracy, why suppress his memories? Maybe he wasn't a willing participant, Torres suggested. Maybe he discovered something about Sarah's disappearance and had to be silenced like she was. Marcus shook his head. But Hayes suggested Sarah ran away voluntarily, like he was covering up a crime. Torres pulled out her phone. I'm calling Agent Walsh. We need a deep background check on Hayes's activities in 1994 and 1995. If he was coerced, there might be evidence. The call revealed Hayes's early retirement was through a federal program, protecting officers exposed to classified information, including full pension and medical care. Federal protection? Marcus asked. What classified information? Would a state police detective have? Torres was quiet. What if the truck hijacking ring was a federal operation? What if Sarah stumbled onto something she wasn't supposed to know? Jennifer looked confused. Like undercover agents or something worse. What if federal agents were involved in the hijacking ring? Torres replied. What if Sarah discovered federal corruption and Hayes was ordered to silence her? Marcus felt his world shift. You're suggesting Sarah was disappeared by federal agents? I'm suggesting we need to be careful who we trust, Torres said. If federal agents were involved, approaching the wrong people could be dangerous. They spent the next hour planning surveillance of the Riverside Medical Center, to be conducted without official FBI support until they understood the conspiracy's scope. Assume Hayes is both victim and perpetrator, Torres concluded. He might have information, but he's controlled by the same people who took Sarah. Marcus studied the toll booth photographs. What do they still need from Sarah? Why keep her alive? Jennifer studied the images. Maybe she's not just a victim. Maybe she's evidence. If she witnessed federal crimes, her testimony could be valuable. Torres nodded. But only if her memories are intact. Blackwood might be suppressing her memories to prevent testimony while keeping her alive for another purpose. Marcus's anger built. They're using her as an insurance policy, keeping her controllable. Which means, Torres said grimly, if we get too close, they might decide she's no longer necessary. The implications were terrifying. Sarah's survival depended on her usefulness. If her captors realized law enforcement was closing in, they might eliminate her. We need to move fast, Marcus said. Tuesday's surveillance might be our only chance before they relocate her. Torres stood. I'm contacting trusted people in other agencies. We need allies unconnected to what happened in Pennsylvania in 1994. Jennifer voiced their shared fear. What if we're too late? What if Sarah's so damaged by 5 years of memory suppression that she can't be saved? Marcus looked at her with determination. Then we save what's left of her and make sure those responsible pay. Philadelphia. Pennsylvania, March 20th, 1999. Harrison Blackwood's credentials. Master career veering into dark psychiatric applications. Torres had researched his background over the weekend, uncovering a disturbing picture of a brilliant mind. Corrupted by federal contracts and ethical compromises, Blackwood graduated from Johns Hopkins in 1974. Torres reported in Marcus's living room Sunday evening. He specialized in trauma-related memory disorders and was recruited by the CIA in 1976 for MKUltra follow-up programs. Marcus looked up from checking surveillance equipment. MKUltra, the mind control experiments? Exactly. The program was officially terminated in 1973, but research continued under different names. Blackwood developed techniques for controlled memory suppression and behavioral modification. Jennifer set down her coffee cup hard. "You're saying my sister's been subjected to CIA mind control for 5 years?" "I'm saying Blackwood has the knowledge to do what we suspect has been done to Sarah," Torres said. "Whether he's still with the CIA or private is unclear." Marcus paced. "What's his connection to Hayes? Why treat a retired state police detective?" "That's where it gets interesting," Torres said, pulling out a file. "Blackwood specializes in treating law enforcement officers with classified trauma. The government pays through a special program." Jennifer leaned forward. "Classified trauma? Officers exposed to federal crimes, covert operations, or classified activities that could compromise national security if revealed," Torres explained. Marcus's anger rose. "So they kidnap my wife, experiment on her for 5 years, and call it national security?" Torres's expression was grim. "It might be worse. I found evidence of Blackwood's program, Cognitive Asset Management, since 1995, designed to control officers with sensitive information." The implications were staggering. Sarah hadn't just been kidnapped, she'd been transformed into a controlled asset, her memories suppressed to serve her captor's needs. "What about the Tuesday appointments?" Marcus asked. "What's their purpose?" Torres displayed medical research papers. "Memory suppression requires regular reinforcement. Without periodic treatments, suppressed memories can resurface. The Tuesday appointments are likely maintenance sessions to keep Sarah's memories buried." Jennifer stood abruptly. "This is monstrous. They've been torturing her for 5 years to control her." "Which means," Marcus said quietly, "if we interfere with the treatment schedule, her memories might return naturally." Torres nodded. "Exactly. Preventing her next treatment could trigger memory recovery, but we must prepare for the psychological trauma that might accompany it." They reviewed their surveillance plan for Tuesday. Walsh had positioned FBI agents around the Riverside Medical Center to observe and follow without intervening unless necessary. "We need to be careful," Torres warned. "If Blackwood or his associates suspect they're watched, they might accelerate their timeline. Sarah could be moved, or Marcus checked his service weapon, or they might decide she's no longer useful." Jennifer pulled out her phone. "I'm calling my supervisor at Social Services. If we find Sarah, she needs specialized trauma counseling." Torres received a call from Walsh with disturbing news. "I've been monitoring communications around the medical center. There's been increased security-related calls in the past 48 hours. They might suspect something." Marcus's heart sank. "Do you think they know about the toll booth footage?" "It's possible," Walsh replied. "The technician had to file his report with supervisors. If there's a leak, Blackwood's people might have been warned." Torres made a decision. "We move the operation up. Tomorrow morning, we go to the medical facility and force a confrontation. If they're planning to move Sarah, we can't wait for Tuesday." Jennifer protested. "But if we're not prepared, if we don't know where she's held between appointments, we might lose her completely." "If we wait," Marcus said, "we might lose her anyway. At least now we have a chance before they relocate her." Torres coordinated the accelerated timeline. Walsh would position surveillance teams by 6 a.m. Monday, and they'd approach Blackwood directly to demand Sarah's location. "What if he refuses to cooperate?" Jennifer asked. "Then we arrest him for kidnapping and conspiracy," Torres replied. 5 years of illegal experimentation should convince him to talk. As they prepared, Marcus studied the toll booth photograph of Sarah. Her vacant expression haunted him, but a flicker of awareness in her eyes suggested her true self was still there, buried beneath manipulation. "Sarah," he whispered, "hold on just a little longer. We're coming for you." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He walked through the house, remembering happier times when Sarah would come. Home from shifts, sharing stories of her day. Her passion for protecting people and solving crimes made the idea of her being a victim of the system. She served unbearable. Jennifer stayed at the house to provide support and be ready if Sarah needed immediate psychological assistance, bringing medical supplies and trauma counseling materials. Whatever condition Sarah's in, Jennifer said at 2 a.m. in the kitchen, "We need to be patient. 5 years of memory suppression, it'll take time to recover." Marcus nodded, understanding. The woman they rescued might not recognize him initially, but she was still his wife, and he'd do whatever it took to help her heal. Torres called at 3 a.m. with final details. "Walsh confirms Blackwood is scheduled at the facility tomorrow. We'll approach him at 8 a.m. before patient hours." "What if Sarah isn't there?" Marcus asked. "Then we make Blackwood tell us where she is," Torres replied. "One way or another, we find her tomorrow." As dawn approached, Marcus felt hope and dread. After 5 years, they were confronting those responsible, but the evidence suggested Sarah had endured psychological torture that might have permanently damaged her mind. "Whatever happens today," he told Jennifer, "we'll know the truth. And if Sarah's still in there, buried beneath what they've done," Jennifer said, squeezing his hand, "we'll bring her back." Riverside Medical Center. March 21, 1999, the Riverside Medical Center, a converted Victorian mansion on Philadelphia's outskirts, hid dark experiments behind its manicured grounds. Torres, Marcus, and Jennifer arrived at 7:45 a.m. with Agent Walsh and 2 FBI agents posing as medical inspectors. "Remember," Torres said, approaching the entrance, "we gather information first. If Blackwood cooperates, we might resolve this without violence. If not..." Her hand moved to her service weapon. The receptionist, a nervous young woman in her 20s, greeted them professionally. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment with Dr. Blackwood?" Torres displayed her FBI credentials. "We need to speak with Dr. Blackwood immediately regarding a federal investigation." The receptionist's composure cracked. "I'll call his office. Please wait here." Marcus studied the facility's layout. Modern security systems and reinforced doors suggested it was designed to keep people in as much as keep intruders out. "Dr. Harrison." Blackwood emerged 5 minutes later, a tall man in his 60s with silver hair and academic authority, confident in dealing with federal agents, though Marcus detected concern in his eyes. "Agent Torres," Blackwood said, extending his hand. "I understand you need to discuss a federal matter." Torres ignored the handshake. "Dr. Blackwood, we need to discuss Sarah Mitchell, Pennsylvania State Police officer." Blackwood's expression didn't change, but his shoulders tensed slightly. "I'm sorry, I don't recognize that name. Perhaps you could clarify your inquiry." Marcus stepped forward. "Sarah Mitchell is my wife. She disappeared 5 years ago, and we have evidence she's been a patient here." "Mr. Mitchell," Blackwood said carefully, "I understand your concern, but I'm bound by doctor-patient confidentiality. Even if I were treating someone by that name, I couldn't discuss it without legal authorization." Torres pulled out the toll booth photographs. "We have photographic evidence of Sarah being transported to this facility regularly. We know about your connection to Detective Robert Hayes and your federal contracts for treating officers with classified trauma." Blackwood studied the photos. "These images are grainy. I'm not sure they constitute proof." Jennifer stepped forward. "Dr. Blackwood, I'm Sarah's sister, a licensed social worker. I know what psychological manipulation looks like. Whatever you've done to my sister for 5 years ends now." Blackwood's demeanor slipped. "I'll have to ask you to leave. Present allegations through proper legal channels." Agent Walsh produced a federal search warrant. "Dr. Blackwood, we're authorized to search this facility and examine patient records. Cooperate voluntarily, or we proceed formally." Blackwood read the warrant. "This appears in order." but I protest the disruption to my patients' care. Many have severe trauma, and this could set back their recovery. Torres moved closer. Where is Sarah Mitchell being held between appointments? I don't know anyone by that name, Blackwood repeated, his voice lacking conviction. Marcus's patience broke. 5 years. You've been torturing my wife, suppressing her memories, controlling her mind. Where is she? Blackwood backed away. Mr. Mitchell, I understand your distress, but I cannot discuss confidential medical information. Walsh gestured to the agents. Search every room. Look for patient records, treatment schedules, anything indicating where Sarah's held. As the agents began, Blackwood reached for his phone. I need to call my attorney. This is highly irregular. Torres grabbed the phone. Dr. Blackwood, we know about your MKUltra background, your federal contracts, your work in memory suppression. Are you going to cooperate, or go to prison for kidnapping and human experimentation? Blackwood's composure cracked. You don't understand what you're dealing with. This is a matter of national security. Officer Mitchell was exposed to classified information that could compromise federal operations. Marcus's rage surged. So you turned her into a lab rat? We saved her life, Blackwood said defensively. The people she was investigating would have killed her if we hadn't intervened. Memory suppression was the only way to protect her and the classified information. Jennifer stepped forward. Protect her? You've been experimenting on her for 5 years. That's torture. Blackwood looked trapped. Officer Mitchell discovered information about a federal operation crucial to national security. She had to be debriefed, her memories suppressed to prevent compromise. Torres pulled out handcuffs. Where is she being held? I don't know, Blackwood said quickly. I only see her for scheduled treatments. She's transported by federal marshals and held at a secure location. Marcus grabbed Blackwood's shoulders. What secure location? What marshals? An FBI agent called from the back. Agent Torres, you need to see this. They followed to a secure wing, where the agent had found a treatment room with equipment for memory suppression and behavioral modification. Medical charts listed a patient, subject SM94, Sarah Mitchell, 1994, Torres said, studying the chart, which detailed a 5-year program of memory suppression, psychological conditioning, and behavioral modification. The latest entry was March 16, 1999, the day they discovered the toll booth footage. This shows Sarah's next appointment is tomorrow, Tuesday, March 23rd, at 10 a.m., Marcus said. Torres turned to Blackwood. If Sarah isn't here for her appointment, what happens? Blackwood looked defeated. The federal marshals will be notified. They'll assume the program's compromised and initiate protective relocation procedures. Protective relocation? Jennifer asked Blackwood's silence spoke volumes. Torres grabbed his arm. Dr. Blackwood, if you don't tell us where Sarah's held, she'd disappear forever. Is that what you want? After a long moment, Blackwood handed over a business card. Contact Deputy Marshal Richard Vaughn. He's in charge of subject SM94 security. But I warn you, interfering with federal operations could have serious consequences. Torres took the card. Dr. Blackwood, you're under arrest for kidnapping, conspiracy, and violating federal medical ethics laws. As Walsh handcuffed Blackwood, Marcus felt relief and anxiety. They had evidence of Sarah's location, but she was held by federal marshals who might view a rescue as a national security threat. What now? Jennifer asked. Torres studied the card. Now we contact Deputy Marshal Vaughn and demand Sarah's return. If he refuses, we escalate to the highest levels of the government. Marcus looked at the charts documenting 5 years of experimentation on his wife. Whatever it takes, he said quietly. We're bringing Sarah home. Federal Building. Philadelphia, March 21, 1999. Deputy U.S. Marshal Richard Vaughn. A career officer known for handling sensitive cases, agreed to meet Torres, Marcus, and Jennifer at the federal building, his tone suggesting he'd anticipated their call. His Spartan office held government-issued furniture and few personal items. "Agent Torres," Vaughn said, "I understand you've been investigating sensitive matters." Torres got to the point. "Marshal Vaughn, we need to discuss Sarah." Mitchell, Pennsylvania State Police Officer, badge 2847, missing since October 12, 1994. Vaughn studied her. "I'm afraid I don't recognize that name or badge number." "Could you clarify?" Marcus stepped forward. "Sarah's my wife. We have evidence she's been in federal custody for 5 years, subjected to psychological experimentation by Dr. Blackwood." Vaughn's expression didn't change. "Mr. Mitchell, I understand your concern, but I'm not authorized to discuss classified operations or protective custody arrangements." Jennifer produced the seized medical charts. "These show 5 years of memory suppression treatments. Subject SM-94 has been treated like a lab animal." Vaughn examined the charts. "I see you've been busy. Dr. Blackwood mentioned federal agents raided his facility. Unfortunately, he failed to follow protocols for handling classified information." Torres leaned forward. "We know about the federal operation Sarah discovered, the truck hijacking ring, the corrupted investigation, and the decision to suppress her memories instead of prosecuting criminals." Vaughn walked to the window overlooking Philadelphia. "Agent Torres, you're dealing with matters classified at the highest levels. Officer Mitchell was exposed to information that could compromise ongoing operations and endanger undercover agents." Marcus's anger rose. "So you kidnapped her and turned her into a test subject?" "We saved her life," Vaughn said, turning back. "The people she was investigating would have killed her. Memory suppression was the only way to protect her and the operation's integrity." Jennifer stood. 5 years of psychological torture is not protection. It's a violation of every ethical and legal standard." Vaughn pulled out a classified file. "Officer Mitchell discovered the truck hijacking ring was a federal sting to identify corrupt shipping companies. Her investigation threatened to expose undercover agents and compromise 3 years of work." Torres studied the file. "So instead of bringing her into the operation, you erased her memories?" "The decision was made at the highest Justice Department levels," Vaughn said. "She had classified information she wasn't authorized to possess. Memory suppression was the least harmful alternative," Marcus paced. "Least harmful? You've destroyed 5 years of her life, our marriage, her sister's life." Vaughn opened the file. "Mr. Mitchell, your wife wasn't a random victim. Her investigation identified federal agents infiltrating corrupt networks. If that information had leaked, those agents would have been killed." Torres was quiet. "What kind of operation required 5 years of memory suppression?" "A complex investigation into organized crime within federal law enforcement," Vaughn replied. "Mitchell identified agents pretending to be corrupt to prosecute actual corruption." Jennifer looked confused. "So Sarah discovered federal agents were corrupt?" "No," Vaughn clarified. "She discovered agents pretending to be corrupt to infiltrate networks. Her investigation threatened to expose them." Marcus felt his world shift. "So the hijacking ring was legitimate criminals monitored by federal agents?" "Exactly. Undercover agents spent years building relationships with corrupt officials and organizations. Mitchell's investigation could have exposed them and gotten them killed." Torres pressed. "Why wasn't Sarah brought into the operation instead of having her memories suppressed?" Vaughn looked uncomfortable. "That decision was above my pay grade. I was tasked with ensuring her safety and security while her memories were suppressed." Jennifer leaned forward. "Where is she being held?" "I can't reveal that," Vaughn said. "But she's safe, healthy, and receiving the best care under the circumstances." Marcus slammed his hand on the desk. "The best care?" She's been turned into a zombie, Marshall. She doesn't even recognize her own face. Vaughn produced more documents. Mr. Mitchell, the operation your wife threatened has led to over 200 corrupt officials arrested and millions in criminal assets seized. Torres studied the documents. This operation's been ongoing for 8 years, 3 years of infiltration, 2 years of prosecutions, Vaughn confirmed. Mitchell's 1994 investigation nearly compromised it at a critical phase. Jennifer looked at the arrest records. So Sarah's investigation was successful. She identified real criminals? She identified criminals and undercover agents, Vaughn replied. She couldn't distinguish between them. Marcus felt exhausted. What happens now? Is Sarah to be kept in custody forever? Vaughn closed the file. The operation concluded last month. All targets are arrested, agents extracted, evidence secured. Theoretically, there's no longer a national security reason to maintain her status. Torres leaned forward. Theoretically? The decision to release her and restore her memories is above my authority, Vaughn said. It needs Attorney General and National Security Council approval. Jennifer stood. How long would that take? Months, possibly years, Vaughn replied. The bureaucracy moves slowly. Marcus's anger returned. Years? You'll keep her imprisoned while bureaucrats decide her fate? Vaughn spread his hands. I'm bound by federal law and protocols. I can't release a classified asset without authorization. Torres pulled out her phone. I'm making calls. This case is going to the FBI and Justice Department's highest levels. Sarah's been illegally detained for 5 years, and that ends now. Vaughn nodded. I expected as much, but those who authorized her detention have significant power. They won't give up easily. Marcus turned back. Marshall, does Sarah know who she is? Does she remember anything before 1994? Vaughn was quiet. No, Mr. Mitchell. She has no memory of her life before detention. As far as she knows, she's been a patient receiving treatment for psychological trauma for 5 years. Jennifer gasped. She doesn't remember Marcus being a police officer, any of it. Vaughn confirmed. The memory suppression is complete. Marcus's heart broke. So even if we get her back, she won't know who I am. The memories might return if suppression treatments stop, Vaughn said. But there's no guarantee. 5 years of suppression, the damage might be permanent. Torres placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. We'll find a way to help her remember. First, we get her released. As they left, Marcus felt overwhelmed. Sarah was a victim of federal bureaucracy and paranoia, yet she'd been protecting agents fighting corruption. What now? Jennifer asked on the federal building steps. Torres pulled out her phone. We call everyone we know in Washington. This case goes to the top, and we don't stop until Sarah's free. Undisclosed federal facility outside Philadelphia, March 24, 1999. The secure facility holding Sarah was a converted office building surrounded by razor wire and federal security. Torres spent 3 days leveraging FBI and Justice Department contacts. The breakthrough came when Deputy Attorney General Patricia Kellerman agreed to review the case after Torres threatened to go public. This is highly irregular, Marshal Vaughn said, leading them through security checkpoints. Officer Mitchell is scheduled for memory restoration, but the process is experimental and potentially dangerous. Dr. Elizabeth Crawford, a psychiatrist specializing in memory recovery, was brought in to oversee Sarah's treatment. Unlike Blackwood, Crawford prioritized ethical practices and was horrified by Sarah's 5-year ordeal. The memory suppression used pharmaceuticals and psychological conditioning, Crawford explained. Reversing it will be gradual and potentially traumatic. Marcus's heart raced as they approached the residential wing. Will she remember me? Memory recovery is unpredictable, Crawford replied. Some memories may return immediately, others weeks or months, some never, Jennifer gripped Marcus's hand. Whatever happens, we'll help her through this. The residential wing resembled a comfortable apartment complex, but security cameras and locked doors revealed its true nature. Sarah's apartment on the 3rd floor overlooked a supervised garden. She's been told she suffered psychological trauma 5 years ago and is recovering from amnesia, Crawford said. She believes she's a voluntary patient. Torres studied the layout. What kind of life has she been living? A controlled existence, Crawford replied. Books, television, supervised recreation, regular medical appointments, but no contact with the outside world or her past, Vaughn. Stopped at apartment 3B. She's inside. Dr. Crawford will handle the introduction and begin memory recovery. Marcus took a deep breath. I'm ready. Crawford knocked. Sarah, it's Dr. Crawford. I have visitors for you. The door opened, revealing a woman who looked like Sarah but wasn't entirely her. Thinner, with a fragile quality, her brown eyes held a distant look from years of manipulation. Sarah, Crawford said gently, these people are here to help recover your memories. This is Marcus Mitchell, your husband. Sarah studied Marcus with curious, unrecognizing eyes. My husband? I don't remember being married. Marcus's heart broke, but he smiled. Hi, Sarah. We've been looking for you for 5 years. Sarah looked confused. 5 years? But I've been here for 5 years, Dr. Blackwood said. I was in an accident and lost my memories. Jennifer stepped forward. Sarah, I'm your sister Jennifer. We grew up together in Pittsburgh. You were a police officer. Sarah sat heavily on her couch. A police officer? I don't remember having a sister or a husband. Crawford produced a photo album Torres prepared. Sarah, these are pictures of your life before your memories were suppressed, your wedding, police academy graduation, family gatherings. Sarah studied the photos with wonder. This is me. I was a police officer. She looked at a wedding photo with Marcus. We look happy. Marcus sat beside her. We were very happy. We had a house in South Philadelphia. You loved your job. You were investigating a case when you disappeared. Sarah's eyes were confused. I disappeared? But I've been here the whole time. Dr. Blackwood said I was recovering from trauma. Crawford showed Sarah's medical records. Sarah, you weren't recovering from trauma. You were subjected to memory suppression to prevent you from remembering classified information. The revelation hit Sarah like a blow. Memory suppression? My memories were deliberately erased. Torres nodded. For 5 years you've been given treatments to suppress your life before. 1994. Your captors wanted to control what you knew about their activities. Sarah walked to the window. So my whole life here has been a lie, Jennifer joined her. Not a lie, Sarah. You've been surviving, staying strong even when you couldn't remember why. Sarah turned to Marcus. Do you really love me? Even though I don't remember you? Marcus felt tears forming. I love you more than anything. I never stopped looking for you, never stopped believing you were alive. Crawford pulled out a device. Sarah, I'm beginning the memory recovery process, stopping suppression medications and using techniques to help memories surface. Are you ready? Sarah looked at the faces claiming to love her. Will it hurt? It might be uncomfortable, Crawford replied. Recovering suppressed memories can be emotionally difficult, but we'll support you. Sarah nodded. I want to remember. I want to know who I really am. The memory recovery began with medications to counteract suppression drugs. Almost immediately, Sarah experienced memory flashes. I remember a house, she said, holding her head. A kitchen with yellow walls. And a dog. We had a dog named Charlie. Marcus smiled through tears. Charlie was a golden retriever. He died 2 years before you disappeared. More memories surfaced over hours. Her police academy graduation, her first day on the job, meeting Marcus. At a conference, They were fragmented but real. I remember investigating truck hijackings, Sarah said suddenly. I was building a case against people stealing cargo. Torres leaned forward. Do you remember what you discovered about the hijacking ring? Sarah's expression grew troubled. I remember finding out some people I was investigating were federal agents, but I couldn't tell which were criminals and which were undercover. Crawford made notes. What else about the investigation? I remember Detective Hayes, Sarah said. He asked about my investigation, but something felt wrong. He seemed more interested in protecting people than finding the truth. Marcus took her hand. Sarah, you were kidnapped because you discovered information threatening a federal operation. They suppressed your memories to protect undercover agents. Sarah looked at him with growing recognition. Marcus, I remember you, our wedding day. I remember loving you. Marcus felt overwhelming relief. I love you too, Sarah. I never stopped. Jennifer hugged her sister. Welcome back, Sarah. We'll help you remember everything. Crawford continued the recovery process with photos and personal items. By day's end, Sarah had recovered significant portions of her past, though many details remained fragmented. The recovery will continue for weeks or months, Crawford explained. Some memories may return completely, others partially. But Sarah is free to rebuild her life. Vaughn approached as they prepared to leave. Officer Mitchell, I apologize for what you've been through. The decision to suppress your memories was made at the highest levels, but that doesn't make it right. Sarah looked at him with anger and sadness. 5 years of my life were stolen: my marriage, my career, my family. How do you apologize for that? Vaughn had no answer. All I can say is those responsible will be held accountable. Sarah turned to the apartment where she'd been held. I never want to see this place again. Marcus put his arm around her. You don't have to. We're going home. Jennifer smiled. We're all going home. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. March 30th, 1999. The house on Carpenter Street looked as Sarah remembered, yet felt different through recovered memories. She stood in the doorway, Marcus beside her, as fragments of their life flickered like a half-remembered dream. The kitchen, she said softly, touching the yellow walls. I painted these because you said it made the room feel like sunshine. Marcus nodded, his voice thick. You painted them the weekend after we bought the house. You got more paint on yourself than the walls. Dr. Crawford had warned that memory recovery would be nonlinear and challenging. Sarah recalled random details vividly, while major events remained elusive. The suppression medications had targeted specific neural pathways, leaving basic functions intact. Jennifer had moved into the guest room to help Sarah adjust and provide emotional support, using photo albums, personal items, and stories to bridge the 5-year gap. I remember our last morning together, Sarah said at the kitchen table. October 12, 1994. You made coffee and complained I was working too many night shifts. Marcus sat across from her. I was worried. You were stressed about the truck hijacking case and kept saying something didn't feel right. Torres arrived at 10 a.m. for Sarah's debriefing. The FBI had opened a full investigation into the conspiracy, and Sarah's memories were crucial evidence. Do you remember anything else about Hayes's questions? Torres asked, setting up her recorder. Sarah rubbed her temples, adjusting to familiar yet foreign memories. He asked specifically about Raymond Castellano and his shipping company. When I said I suspected Castellano's involvement, Hayes seemed nervous, asking if I'd shared my suspicions. Torres made notes. Did you share them? I called you, Marcus, Sarah said. I told you I thought there was federal involvement in the hijacking ring, but I wasn't sure if it was corruption or undercover. Marcus nodded. You called the night before you disappeared, saying you'd confront Hayes about his questions. Sarah's expression grew troubled. I remember that now. I was going to ask Hayes if he was protecting criminals or undercover agents. Torres leaned forward. What happened when you confronted him? Sarah closed her eyes, accessing painful memories. I met him at a diner near the state police barracks. He was agitated. When I said I suspected federal involvement, he made a phone call. Who did he call? Torres asked. I don't know. But after, his demeanor changed, like he'd received instructions. Jennifer brought coffee. What did Hayes say after the call? Sarah was quiet. He said my investigation identified people working undercover for the government. If I continued, I'd compromise their safety and possibly get them killed. Torres stopped writing. So Hayes was protecting undercover agents? That's what he said. But I told him I needed to know who was legitimate and who was criminal to conduct a proper investigation. Marcus's anger rose. So what did Hayes do? Sarah's memories clarified painfully. He said he'd arrange a meeting with a federal supervisor to explain, at a specific location on Route 1 that night. Torres and Marcus exchanged glances. The location where your patrol car was found? Torres asked. Sarah nodded. I remember driving there, then a van, men in suits, and nothing until I woke up in the facility. Torres made notes. It sounds like Hayes was protecting an undercover operation, but those he called decided to kidnap you rather than bring you in. Sarah looked confused. So Hayes wasn't a criminal? Hayes was a federal informant, Torres replied. He reported to the Justice Department about possible state police corruption. When you investigated the hijacking ring, he was ordered to monitor and report your findings. Jennifer sat beside her sister. So Hayes was one of the good guys? Hayes followed orders, Torres said. But those giving orders chose to kidnap Sarah rather than trust her with classified information. Sarah felt overwhelmed. So my kidnapping was authorized by the federal government? Torres nodded grimly. At the highest Justice Department levels, they viewed you as a security risk rather than an asset. Marcus paced. 5 years of Sarah's life stolen because bureaucrats couldn't trust a decorated officer. Sarah looked at Marcus with clarity. Marcus, I remember loving you, our plans to have children, to build a life. They took that from us. Marcus took her hand. We can still have those things, Sarah. We can build that life. Torres cleared her throat. Sarah, the memory suppression treatments have been declared illegal by the Attorney General. Dr. Blackwood's arrested, and several officials are suspended pending investigation. Sarah felt relief and anger. What about those who authorized my kidnapping? That's still being investigated, Torres replied, but heads will roll. The Attorney General has apologized to you and Marcus, and there'll be significant compensation. Jennifer squeezed Sarah's hand. Sarah, what matters is your home. We'll deal with the rest together. Sarah looked at the photographs of her pre-1994 life. I remember why I became a police officer, to protect people, ensure justice. Marcus smiled. And you did. Your investigation led to over 200 corrupt officials arrested. You succeeded, Sarah. Torres gathered her materials. Your case will change federal law enforcement policies. What happened to you won't happen to another officer. As Torres left, Sarah called out, Agent Torres, thank you. Marcus said you never gave up looking for me. Torres smiled. I'm glad we found you and you're getting your life back. After Torres left Sarah, Marcus and Jennifer sat in the living room, surrounded by remnants of a life interrupted for 5 years. Sarah was still recovering memories, adjusting to her reality. But she was home. Marcus, she said, I want to try to have a normal life again, to remember what it's like to be happy. Marcus kissed her forehead. We'll figure it out together. We have time. Jennifer stood. I'm starting dinner. Sarah, do you remember your favorite meal? Sarah smiled, her first genuine smile since returning. Spaghetti with meatballs. You always made the best meatballs. As Jennifer headed to the kitchen, Marcus and Sarah sat on the couch, rebuilding their connection. The 5-year gap would take time to bridge, but they were together, and that mattered. "I love you," Sarah said, her words carrying recovered memories and present feelings. "I love you too," Marcus replied. "Welcome home." Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, March 2000. The federal courthouse buzzed as the conspiracy trial concluded. Sarah sat in the witness section, hand in Marcus's, watching the federal officials responsible for her kidnapping led away in handcuffs. The 8-month trial had delivered justice. The jury finds the defendants guilty on all counts. Judge announced. Conspiracy to kidnap, deprivation of civil rights under color of law, and violation of federal medical ethics statutes. Deputy Attorney General Patricia Kellerman approached Sarah and Marcus. "Officer Mitchell, I apologize again for what our government put you through. Safeguards are in place to ensure this never happens again." Sarah had regained most memories. Over the past year, though gaps remained. The trauma of 5 years suppression required extensive therapy, but she was rebuilding her life. "Thank you, Ms. Kellerman. I just want to ensure no other officer goes through this." Dr. Elizabeth Crawford's testimony on the effects of memory suppression was crucial for convictions. The defendants showed callous disregard for Officer Mitchell's rights and dignity, she told the jury. They treated her as an object to manipulate, not a human deserving respect. Detective Robert Hayes testified, exposing the bureaucratic mindset prioritizing security over rights. "I was told Officer Mitchell's memories had to be suppressed to protect undercover agents," he said. "I was told it was temporary, that her memories would be restored. I was lied to." Marcus took leave from the Philadelphia Police Department to care for Sarah, becoming more aware of institutional corruption and the need to protect individual rights. "I'm proud of you," he told Sarah as they left the courthouse. "You've been incredibly brave." Sarah squeezed his hand. I couldn't have done it without you and Jennifer. You kept me anchored when I didn't know who I was." Jennifer's trauma recovery expertise strengthened their bond, giving her new insights. "What's next for us?" she asked as they walked through Philadelphia. Sarah had been considering this. The federal settlement provided financial security, but she wanted to use her second chance meaningfully. "I want to return to police work," she said, "but focus on helping traumatized officers, ensuring what happened to me doesn't happen again." Marcus smiled. "The Pennsylvania State Police offered you a position in their new Civil Rights Protection Unit, investigating police misconduct and federal overreach." Sarah considered the irony of investigating the corruption that led to her kidnapping. "I think I'll accept. I have a unique perspective on what happens when agencies lose sight of their mission." Torres, promoted to Assistant Director of the FBI's Civil Rights Division, implemented protocols for handling cases involving local officers and classified information. Sarah's case exposed flaws in how agencies handle sensitive information. She told a congressional committee, "New safeguards ensure classified information doesn't violate rights." The Riverside Medical Center was shut down, and Dr. Blackwood was sentenced to 20 years in prison. His memory suppression research was classified and locked away. "Blackwood's work is a dark chapter in medical ethics," Crawford testified. "His techniques were designed to control, not heal." Sarah reflected on her recovery as they walked. The suppression hadn't destroyed her identity. She was still the officer who valued justice, the wife who loved Marcus, the woman who sought truth. "I want to visit the memorial," she said. At the Pennsylvania State Police headquarters, the memorial honored officers harmed by institutional corruption. Sarah's name was on a plaque. Officer Sarah Mitchell, kidnapped while investigating corruption, held for 5 years, returned to duty through courage and determination. Her sacrifice led to reforms protecting all officers. Sarah touched the plaque, feeling its weight. "I want to have children," she said suddenly, recalling their 1994 plans. "I want the family we talked about." Marcus's heart swelled. "Are you ready for that?" Sarah smiled, her expression full of Rediscovered love and hope. I've been ready for 5 years. I just couldn't remember it. Jennifer hugged them. I'm going to be the best aunt in the world. As they walked home, Sarah thanked Marcus. Even when I couldn't remember who I was, you knew. Marcus kissed her forehead. I knew because I love who you are. Memory suppression couldn't change that. Inside, Sarah looked at photographs of their life wedding, early marriage, reunion, recovery. The 5-year gap would always be there, but new memories filled the space. I love you, Sarah said, her words carrying past and present. I love you too, Marcus replied. Welcome home, Sarah. Welcome to the rest of our life. Epilogue. Pennsylvania State Police Academy. 2005. Sarah Mitchell Torres stood before graduating police recruits, her uniform bearing the Civil Rights Protection Unit's insignia. Marcus, now chief of detectives, and Jennifer, a trauma recovery expert, sat behind her. Your job is to protect and serve the public, Sarah told the recruits. But sometimes you protect the public from institutions that lose their way. Your oath is to justice, not bureaucracy. Agent Torres smiled at her words. Sarah's case had transformed federal law enforcement, creating protections for officers reporting corruption and oversight for classified operations. Sarah's twins, Marcus Jr. and Jennifer, 3 years old, played quietly in the auditorium, supervised by their grandmother. They'd grow up knowing their mother's story and the importance of courage and justice. A recruit asked, "How do you know when to trust your instincts versus following orders?" Sarah drew on her experience. Trust your instincts when they tell you something's wrong. Follow orders when they align with your oath to protect and serve. Sometimes, the most important cases make powerful people uncomfortable. After the ceremony, Sarah and Marcus walked the academy grounds, reflecting on their journey. The 5 years of separation were painful, but they emerged stronger, committed to justice. Any regrets? Marcus asked. Sarah smiled, watching their children in the garden. No regrets. Everything led us here. We have our family, our work, our purpose. Sarah's story became a case study in police academies, a reminder to protect rights and hold institutions accountable. Her disappearance was a tragedy, her return a victory for justice. As they drove home through Pennsylvania's countryside, their future was bright, their past a foundation for justice. I love you, Marcus said. I love you too, Sarah replied. Thank you for bringing me home. Sarah Mitchell vanished as a traffic cop and returned as a guardian of civil rights, proving that even in the darkest circumstances, truth and justice could prevail.